Donnie, whenever you're ready.
Hi, this is Donnie Duncan, and you're listening to MLVC, the Madonna podcast, your place for all things Madonna Louise Veronica Ciccone.
Oh, you do that so well. And hey, everybody, it's Stefan. Thanks for joining us for another episode of MLVC. As you just heard, today on the show, we are joined by Celebration tour dancer Donnie Duncan. Welcome to the show, Donnie.
Hi, welcome. Hello.
Thanks for being on time and taking some time out of your day. You're in Paris, correct?
Yes, I am. I'm in Paris.
How is Paris today?
It's lovely. It's getting cold here now. Yeah, it's full
Yes.
winter. Winter is rolling in, so but it's lovely. Today we have some sun, so no complaints.
Yeah, it was the same in New York. It was like Halloween, it was summertime, and then literally the next day, all of a sudden it was like, and
Yeah,
winter.
zapped completely.
Yeah. Um, well, I was gonna give a bit of a bio for Donnie, but if you were under a rock this past year, you should all recognize Donnie because he was very prominently featured in many of the numbers on the Celebration tour. I have some fantastic photos of you, by the way, because I was in the Sound Factory pit, and during "Don't Tell Me," you were like smack in front
Right
of me.
there. Yeah.
So I think a lot of people have some
Yeah.
fantastic
I
photos of
was
you from
I
that
was
moment.
very, very up close and personal.
Yeah. It was fun. I mean, that's what I love about those pit seats is you
Yeah.
feel like you're part of the action. And um, but let's start with your origin story of dance. How did dance come into your life?
So I started dancing when I was 11, and my sister actually put me in classes. So
Mm,
she paid for my entire first year, and then after that year, my parents kind of got on board, and I continued until I was like 17, 18 when I graduated high school. And from there, then I went to university,
hmm.
from university into college, and or from the university into the company, and then the company into Madonna. But I've always been a dancer. It's always been my thing from very, very young, even before I started taking proper classes.
And was there a specific style of dance that you were like focusing on, or was it just like you were getting trained on everything?
I would say it was more like modern was what I was most excited about, but I was getting like a more recreational training across many different genres. Yeah, I just really liked to move. I was crazy hyperactive, so I just needed to do something. And my
Yeah.
sister had the bright idea, so
That's fun. Yeah, it's sort of like Michael Phelps as a swimmer, whereas he was like super hyperactive, and his mom
yeah,
just was like, "We're gonna throw you in the pool."
yeah, it was really that kind of situation. I was bouncing off the walls like crazy.
And did you find that the dance helped sort of center you a little bit?
Yeah, it gave me an outlet for all of my things to kind of come out in the same space. So I could be super physical and I could be really musical and we could like, get excited about the songs that we were singing. I also grew up like singing in the
Mm.
church. And so like had this very like expressive sort of experience as a kid. So it was just a really safe space for me to be very expressive, which was great. Yeah.
What type of music did you sort of resonate towards, either to dance to or to sing
Mhm.
to?
I was singing wise, I was a super pop kid. So like I knew everything on the radio. We always had the radio playing along with like a few random like classic albums, R&B albums and things. And then dance wise, my first instructor, who is a really close, dear family friend mentor to me, had a much wider range of music that she would introduce all of the young dancers to. So we were doing classical things and like
Hmm.
punk things and like some really like, yeah, all kinds of music that we would be dancing to. Like it was sort of the hub for all things more experimental coming from like small town Illinois, so to say.
Nice.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just feel like some people try to get involved in dance to do like the stuff that's trendy, like you see a lot of people on TikTok trying to do pop and lock dance or,
Yeah.
like trying to do like recreate Britney Spears stuff all the time. And I think it's beneficial to sort of get the realm of like
Yeah.
not just that type of dance style.
Yeah, yeah. Especially yeah, as a training or even as like a recreational, I think it's fun to have that level of exposure
For
from a
sure.
younger age.
So, do you feel that that helped benefit you when you were getting led to Celebration Tour? Like, how did Celebration Tour come about for you?
Yeah, well, so I was dancing for a really large, well-known contemporary dance company in the Netherlands called Netherlands Dance Theater, and that place was like a huge factory for all things very like avant-garde dance theater. Back, it's been around. The company's been around for 60 years, but through that company experience, I met this choreographer, Damien Jallet,
Sure.
and we who was one of the choreographers on the Celebration tour. And basically, by working with him, we had a really good sort of bond and connection. And he invited me to come and audition for the Madonna workshop because he wanted some people of around that knew his way of working, because in a way he also needed to produce a product for Madonna to sort of like agree on and accept, and he had like to do that in just a few days. So he wanted people around who really understood his language and methodology of creating choreography so he could get the best product out as quickly as he could, and I was someone that came to mind. And so, but for sure, in a sort of non-linear kind of way, all of the things that I've done have like facilitated the next thing. I can't really say what it is, but like being in that place obviously exposed me to the connection that got me there, but also like the range of dance styles inside of the Celebration tour. I was already open as a physical artist to be able to embrace such range coming from the dance company that I was working for.
Right.
And then like having a more pop influence, like in a more like social dance background when I was young, not just a classical background. Having that also helped me to embrace the more commercial pop, hip hop, so to say, dance styles that were also throughout the Celebration tour, because I wasn't doing that kind of work when I was in the company.
Hmm.
So,
Yeah, there was a lot of so if someone's listening or watching this show right now, if you haven't seen the Celebration tour, you can see copious amounts of videos of the numbers on YouTube. There's an eclectic bunch of styles and different types of dance that are
yeah.
portrayed. Um, did you have any special abilities that you felt you
Mm.
brought to the show that was a reason why you were featured in one number over another?
Um,
I
Interesting
mean, because
question.
you were sort of in every number. I mean, you
I
were
was in
like
a lot. I was in a lot. There were only a few that I didn't like manage to be a part of, and we were all in quite a bit. But I think the male identifying dancers were also used a little bit more than the female dancers. Um, I think honestly, having like a very contemporary dance background, it just sort of opened you up to be able to take on those different characters, so to say, because actually it's quite a character driven show.
yeah,
Of her being like the queen of reinvention, right? Being going through this music that has all of these different sort of personalities and sides of her. We all needed to be able to adapt and be coachable in that way. So I think that definitely helped with allowing me to be featured in multiple things. Um, yeah, I think that that's kind of it. And we had us, what, we were like 16 dancers, even so much as maybe people don't know this, but you know, in the number that was sometimes rain, sometimes
take a bow
take a
sometimes.
bow, exactly. And this number, that's me in the cape. So we also built this number together with those choreographers, and that number required a very different sort of a lot of multitasking because right, I have to unhook her from the frame, then I need to climb under the frame, then I need to like embrace her but be covered in this fabric and make sure she doesn't trip or step on the
Right.
fabric, and then get it removed. And so actually that one was like very like a much very technical, while also having to be very like interpretive physically and making everything look seamless.
Yeah.
So that was a good skill, I think, that was able to be highlighted for that particular moment.
Where did you get to develop or choreograph any moments in the show?
So actually, yeah, working with Damien Jallet. So his pieces, Justify My Love, and the other one that was Die Another Day.
Hmm.
I worked quite closely with him to develop a lot of the movement for Die Another Day, me and another dancer, because Damien has a way of working where he gives you a sort of task or sort of structure framework to work inside of. And you generate, and he comes around and he looks at things, and he takes what he likes and he glues it to another section that he likes. And So with Die Another Day, it was like he wanted these razor sharp movements, very angular, very linear, using levels, moving at the last minute to this specific rhythm of the iconic Die Another Day rhythm. Um, so that one I was able to work with quite closely, and he had a lot of beautiful inspiration from these Guljev videos of these like men dancing in large groups in these sort of empty brutalist buildings and very ceremonious. So we had a lot of references to draw from in building the choreography, but it was also like we were building it very tense. It wasn't like very relaxed. It was like, okay, Donnie, let's go. Do we have 45 minutes? Let's come to the other studio and see what we can make. And then we would make like say 6, 8 counts or something in a very like tight period of time. And then I would go back and I taught it to the group.
Mm,
So we developed that together. And then for Justify My Love, the moment in the circle that was shot from above with Madonna
mhm.
in the center where she's being lifted, all of this sort of choreography that we built with the hands, creating the sort of, what's it called, like kaleidoscopic
Yeah.
imagery, we built together with him, and I just sort of like pushed out the idea really really quick, and because everything is happening on such a tight time frame, he was like, okay, wait, this is good, guys, let's all come learn this. And then so suddenly you're just teaching it to the group and it makes sense. We weave the hands. And so those were my two biggest contributions, I think.
Well, and I'm glad you say that because those were two of my favorite numbers from the entire show. Like
Nice.
I Justify My Love, I thought was just epically beautiful to watch. Like
Yeah.
just the lighting and the way the skin tones all meshed together and like everyone, like 'cause you're all in like those little nude like bodysuit
Yeah, nude
pieces,
illusion.
and it was beautiful to watch. Like
Yeah.
and the music mix that they used
Yeah.
of that song was great, and how they obviously Madonna in the center and the focused on her and around her, and like it was basic. I mean, I always said it was such a beautiful like orgy of bodies
Yeah.
twisting
Yeah.
and turning, and it was just beautiful. And
Exactly.
then
Yeah.
Die Another Day. I mean, that's always been one of like a favorite, like upbeat, sharp Madonna song
Yeah.
of mine. And the
Yeah.
way that the choreography, I loved. I mean, that moment when it goes dark and then the lights come back on and then all the dancers are everywhere it was
Yeah.
just beautiful and wonderful.
Yeah.
I loved it so much.
Oh, I'm glad we had a lot of fun with that one, but it was a long process. I also was helping him to make the Madonna's actual part for that she's doing in the center. So we were making this very early in the workshop, and it was even more extremely difficult before we had to simplify things for microphones and costumes. But
Yeah.
visually, it's really a really really stunning number. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think, and I don't know if like, or you can talk to this at all, but one of my friends had said she's doing the choreo with her eyes closed at the end towards the numbers, and I was like, so the next time I watched it, I happened to be in that front section near when she opens, like how they had like there was like 9 rows between Nothing Really Matters and that Die Another Day stage, and
Yeah.
so I was like right in front of that Die Another Day area. So when I turned around, I was like, let me watch her eyes, and
Yeah.
I was like, oh, she is. I'm like, she's,
Yeah. She
which I thought
would
was like
sometimes.
amazing. Like it was so like she's in this zone where
Yeah.
she's just like able to close her eyes and do this choreo.
And the dancers also are so sensitive to her movements and her energy. They're super responsive. So anything that maybe would happen different from one night to the next, those dancers are like very attuned into her movement. So that's why she has that freedom to really be able to like stay with the choreography, because of course it's a lot to think about, you know?
Yeah.
And she just, yeah, drops into her zone.
So it's James Vaughan Pham
Uh-huh.
was who was the other one that partnered
Uh,
with?
Jal Joshua Alduesa Lebumfas. That's the full name.
That's a mouthful.
Jal. Yeah, it's a beautiful name. Yeah,
But yeah,
those
they were
are,
great. They were great to watch with her.
yeah, they were beautiful. And wow, the even watching them in rehearsal was unbelievable. They were such beasts. It was incredible.
Did you get to watch like how, because again, we know obviously we're not privy to the rehearsal process. Are you
Yeah.
able to see people rehearsing, or are you busy working on your own numbers until you're required to be part of the number? Are you there,
Yeah.
or are you like focused on your own stuff?
We're it's a little bit of both. There, it just depends on the day because of course some we rehearse a lot on our own without Madonna. Basically, we like get everything to performance level
Hmm.
without her before she's learned like a single step. And then she's like, okay, I've approved it. I'm ready to learn it. And then she'll jump in and learn. So then while she's learning, we have chances to sort of watch her section of it unfold. And then maybe
Mm-hmm.
some days they'll just review the section that she's in and they'll run that with music so we can watch those dancers work on that section. Or yeah, so oftentimes there's always we have to highlight certain moments. So you always get a chance to observe what everyone else is doing in the show. But then there are also times where you're all working at the same time and you can only focus on your own steps, so to say.
When you were rehearsing without her, is that where Valerie would come in?
Yes, yeah, yeah. Valerie was making all of her parts, the full choreography, and then teaching it to her. It's a really brilliant method. When I saw it in action, I was like, wow, this makes so much sense.
Hmm.
It's just, yeah, it makes so much sense.
Well, yeah, because it's like having a stand-in on a movie set. Like
Exactly.
Madonna doesn't have the time to stand around while everyone's figuring out what they're going to do and lighting and this
Yeah,
and that. It's like have
exactly.
somebody fill in for her while she's
Yeah,
running her empire.
exactly, exactly. So it was very cool to witness.
What were your favorite numbers to perform on the Celebration tour?
Don't Tell Me actually was at a certain point it was fully my favorite because it was so fun and I loved the costume so much. And I
or
remember
or
even
or lack thereof.
yeah, that too. Like I remember the first day we were even trying on those costumes, me and Prince, my best friend, and one of the other dancers in the tour. We were just like in the mirror being so ridiculous in these like shorts and hats with all the glitter and the tassels. Like, oh, this is so fun. So that was really one of my favorites, and I really enjoyed also Get Into the Groove because it felt like the first time we really were like really seeing and connecting with the audience and like
Hmm.
the way they put that music production together for that specific moment was like that was the really like wow, this is a major pop star tour moment like coming to life every single night on the stage. Like that was really the big dopamine hit of the
Yeah.
show. And then there's like the technical achievement of like Die Another Day, which always was like, oh, I have to get in the zone. So that ability to feel like you can accomplish something. Yeah, those were.
So I want to ask you about Ray of Light because I feel like Ray
Mhm.
of Light was so when I was in that front section of seats in the Philly
Yeah.
show,
Uh-huh.
I because I'd already seen the show a couple of times before, I had in those first three shows I focused on watching Madonna most of all, but during that Philly show, I was like, let me watch the dancers because you were all right in front of me in
Yeah.
that number, and man, oh man, y'all just
Mm.
move
Yeah.
nonstop in that number.
Yes.
Was there like mental prep that you would all have to do to like, because that comes pretty late in the show.
Yeah, it's very late. It's almost yeah, it's like basically a second to last number
I mean, because it
for the
looked like it
group.
was just like 5 minutes straight of like constant movement.
Oh, it was. It was full cardio. And when we were rehearsing it, it was it was almost even harder because we were like really in this like fight for it. So even when we were building it, we were all like building it in the workshop and trying to learn it, but also auditioning, but also like, it required you to kind of get in shape because it was like 4.5 minutes of like full cardio. And everyone was going so full out. And the team La Horde, they wanted us to really embrace those like levels and being really low and being super physical, and so that you kind of take the energy already starts very high from the beginning of that number, so that as you keep growing we get this like very expansive euphoric feeling with the rave and with the song, and which already has all of that inside of it, which is so beautiful. It's like to earn those slow-mo moments you have to get really really physical for the rest of it. Yeah, it was that one was a trip. That one was a trip to do every night. Also, because I was in the very front of the
Yep.
group
Yep.
and everyone is behind me, and it's like a very mental game with all of the patterns of the movement. So you do something for four counts, something for two, something for one, something for three, back again to the four. So you're counting, you're really thinking very like every with every single step until it gets to become muscle memory. And even then, when it becomes muscle memory, you can't relax too much because it's so easy to mess up.
Yeah. So
um,
how are you doing that? Are so because as a non-dancer,
yeah.
like I would think that you're just like dancing with the music, but
Hmm.
you're counting.
Yeah, or like you're keeping track. I don't want to say counting because we're not even always going 1, 2, 3. We're not even really doing that. But sometimes you're keeping track of your four. You're feeling your rhythm. You have your change. You kind of lock it in, but you have to stay aware of it at the same time while you
Hmm.
have fun and while you play and while you make eye contact with the audience and while certain other thoughts come swiping through your mind, because that happens a lot when you perform a show many times. Your mind also you sort of like start to leap out of your body in certain moments because the program of your physicality is running on its own. So you're like, oh, let me come back. Something's passing in my, stay in the moment, have a look
Yeah.
at the friends, see the audience. Oh, I've seen this person at the show before. Like all of these things are like sort of, it's a lot of mental things happening. And sometimes there were times where I messed up and like, oh, I started to leave to go to the next section, but you leave too early and friends like push you back in place. Like all kinds of things happen. But yeah, I loved performing Ray of Light. It was really fun.
What other numbers? Remind me what other numbers Lahore did with it was Ray of
Um,
Light and
they did Ray of Light. They did Beast Within.
yes.
They did, what else did Lahore do? They
People
did her
people send me
solo
hate mail for not
number.
remembering.
Um, they did bedtime stories, her
Oh, uh-huh.
solo. Oh wait, that was also City Larby.
Because it
What
was a
else did they
huge
do?
collaborative tour. I mean, there were
Oh
so many
yeah,
people involved in so many different aspects of
exactly. Even
things.
sometimes three choreographers would be working on the same thing at different times. Yeah.
Was that would you say was Celebration Tour like the biggest thing you've ever worked on so far in your
Oh,
career?
100%. For sure, without a doubt. It's the biggest production value I've ever been a part of. The longest tour I've ever done, the most expensive production, biggest in all the ways. I've never had that many costume changes. I've never like rehearsed for that long for a
Mm.
performance. Um, I've never performed in front of that many people on that consecutively. For sure, it's the biggest thing. Yeah.
So you said you would see people in the audience that you recognized. Did you notice that a lot? Like
Oh, that it
because
would.
so I know I've spoken to many super fans who have seen like 50 shows of the Celebration
Yeah.
Tour. Do you recognize that? You see them?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like to a point where like you start to see them and you do a little like wink, like, hey, nice to see you again. Like it becomes yeah, you get used to seeing them. When you see them, you recognize them immediately. And even like could be multiple people in the same show.
Hmm.
And I think that's really nice because it shows how much her fans care for her and how much they love to see her in her moment and how much maybe they appreciate the show and yeah, what it means for this tour to be going on.
Yeah, oh, for sure. Um, what was performing in Rio like as the finale for
Wow.
this tour? Because to me, as a spectator, watching from home on some bootleg stream that we were able to find, um,
Yeah.
it was to me just such a fitting tribute to her as an
Wow.
artist, to her
Yeah.
her 40-year career, and then also to the tour. Like to know that that many people were showing up to watch her show non-related to like a New Year's Eve or a Fourth of July or any type of
Yeah.
holiday.
Yeah.
Like they were
Yeah.
literally just showing up for her. I thought that was such
Yeah.
a great testament, and it would just look like I had. Tell me how that felt.
It was really so unreal. It was so, even before the show, this, what I've been saying is like before the week leading up to the performance was just crazy. Just seeing, because the Copacabana beach was already, the whole city was just preparing for this thing. And this monumental moment, not just the thing, this huge moment, that then the excitement from everyone, the amount of people outside of the hotel, the news stations, the people taking photos, all the Madonna merchandise lined up on the beach everywhere, watching them build the stage and the bridge from our hotel to the stage so that we could get backstage. Um, and then like our dress rehearsal the night before, having people there being able to watch the dress rehearsal, you're like, oh, this is crazy, even though, and then thinking that was a lot of people, and then wow, the next day, was crazy. When the actual show was going on,
Were you even able to take in how many people it was? Like, I assume at a certain point you just can't even see
yeah,
beyond, you know?
in a way, no. In a way, I wasn't. There was one thing that happened before the show. Someone had a drone camera and had posted a video on Instagram, and we saw from the drone backstage. I was like, and the way that you could see the stage, and then it just kept flying down the beach, panning down the beach, and the people just kept. There were just more and more and more people that then that really sank in. I was like, oh wow, this is really, it's over 1 million people. It was 1.6, I guess, in the end. And seeing people watching the show from boats in the sea, you
Yeah.
just and it was so crazy. Like I wish you couldn't really feel them because we're in an open environment. So
Yeah.
you don't hear everyone the same because the sound isn't contained. But I think if that would have been possible, it would have been crazy to really hear the roar of that many people would have been unbelievable.
Yeah,
Um,
that was the one thing that I loved the most about watching the Rio show when they were live broadcasting it was when she came out the very first time singing Nothing Really Matters, and you
yeah.
heard the echo of everyone
Wow.
singing. And I thought, what's happening? What are we here? Is that
Yeah.
everyone singing the song? Because, from audience to audience, every
It was
show,
different.
people change. Like I
Yeah.
saw the last two Paris shows, and I felt like the audience was actually very calm in Paris. And then the next time I saw it, it was in Brooklyn, and it was like
Yeah.
this huge party. And then I saw it in
Yeah.
DC, and it was even bigger. And like it just felt
Yeah.
like the audiences morphed and shifted and changed. But Rio, I was like, whoa, they've
It
come to
was,
party.
oh yeah, they really did. They really did. They sang along the whole show. It was beautiful. It was
Yeah, it
really
was amazing.
incredible.
I yeah,
Yeah.
and being outside next to the beach and
Wow, feeling the wind of the beach, like the wind of the sea, and like seeing the little fog roll in, and even just being out there during the day before everyone came. Yeah, even if I think about it in my mind, it's like, did that really happen? And it was in such a beautiful location, and we had gorgeous weather, and the people were so nice. Everyone was, yeah, it was such a special moment.
yeah,
Even
I
backstage, and to have that be our final show was like,
yeah,
yeah.
like a little bow on the gift,
Wow, a
the
huge bow.
Were there any other like performances throughout the run of the show that you like remember or like stood out for you as like being special
Hmm.
for some reason?
So there was one show in Mexico City where Selma Hayek came on stage.
Yep.
Wow, dressed as Frida Kahlo. And that was unbelievable. I almost cried in the middle of the show.
Oh, that's
In the middle of Vogue, I almost started crying because it was so powerful. Like the way that everyone's energy, the like pure love and joy and celebration of such a monumental artist, um, and in collaboration with this other celebration of another monumental artist, um, was just so unreal. It was like humanity at its purest. The way that
hmm
they celebrated, um, all of these incredible women, Selma, Madonna, and Frida, like all in the same. You're just, it was beyond. And the applause and the roar went on for like, it felt like a full minute in the middle of Vogue, which was longer than we had ever had for any guest or any celebrity on stage. And it really kind of took my breath away. Outside of that moment, there were a thousand other like amazing, hilarious, super fun things that stood out. But that for me is really that's the big takeaway.
So and I've talked about this multiple times on the show. I'm gonna highlight the one Vogue moment that I thought was super hysterical that I got to be part of, which was in DC when Santa Claus was on the Vogue
Oh,
stage, and poor
wow.
Santa
Poor
didn't
Santa
know
went
didn't know what was
down.
coming.
He had no clue. Poor man. He was just abused up there in front of everyone. Oh, but it
Yeah.
was so funny. Madonna was
So,
actually up. She wasn't super happy with the sex siren boys because we didn't give Santa all of our sex energy. We gave him like cutesy little dance and like, oh, what do we want for Christmas?
I
And she
was
was like,
surprised.
what was that? What was going on?
That's why I got my video ready because I was like, I'm curious if the boys are gonna be as scandalous with Santa Claus as, and you weren't. You were so well
We
behaved, like
weren't.
you kept your clothes
Yeah.
on, and
Uh-huh. We just like it was very cute. We were like, no, 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 we can't sexualize Santa. And she was like, what? That's and then she turns around and then you turn back around and Santa's now been jumped on and dragged to the floor. He lost his glasses, like hat fell off. Oh, this poor guy.
yeah, we had him on the show.
Really?
I tracked him down. Somebody sent me a link, and I was like, "You want to come on the show and talk about falling on stage in front of Madonna?" And so he did.
Oh,
So yeah,
wow.
he was a good
Nice.
sport to it. He said Madonna's medical team took very good care of me after.
That's so sweet.
Um, did the experience of working with Madonna change or challenge your dance skills in any way?
I think it challenged my work ethic more, and my I almost want to say integrity, like how deep I could dig into myself to push
Mm,
through. I think it was more of a challenge in that way. It was a testament of like perseverance or like consistency and professionalism, and uh, it was really more of that than dance skills. I felt very ready, um, as a dancer to take on a project like this, but I wasn't quite prepared for the how hard the work was going to be, the hours of the repetition of the numbers, the hours of working, the hours of anticipation for a show or for a sound check. What it meant to be like smart and careful on a stage with so many moving parts, with fire, with elevators, with like all kinds of lights and lasers that could actually burn your eyes. Like,
hmm.
like there's all these like massive screens and, flying frames and all of those elements. I think it was, yeah, it challenged myself in that way to be really, really on top of it, and also work wise to be adaptable with all of those folk guests on stage
Yeah.
every night, to think about cameras being from every angle, even when we were filming, or yeah, it was yeah, a challenge in that way for sure, which
Yeah.
I think primed me for, like, it's kind of like after working for her, I'm like, oh, I can do anything. Like, it's like you have
Mhm.
that experience, and you're like, I am ready. I know that if I know that I'm capable of doing that, I can be in any situation and I can hold my own and I can push through, because we just worked like crazy to build this show. And I can't imagine that anything else is going to ask that of me in that way. I,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. As far as like you mentioned, the multiple things going on within the show, the complexities of the show. I think the very first tour I saw after Celebration was I went and saw Janet's Together Again tour that was going on, and
Hmm.
Janet Jackson. And when I walked into the arena, I was like, oh my God, the stage is so tiny compared to Celebration. Like it was just such a huge contrast
Yeah,
from,
yeah.
and I realized then I was like, wow, we are spoiled seeing a Madonna show,
Oh,
because
yeah.
like you just realize how like the costumes, the production value, the like everything about that show was so super elevated. And
Oh,
then,
wow.
like seeing Janet Jackson, I mean, it's a different show.
It's just a
I mean,
different
she's a
show.
great
Yeah,
performer and I loved what she did, but like
yeah,
she had four dancers,
yeah,
she had
yeah,
one stage, she
yeah,
had two little screens, it
yeah,
was like it was just
yeah.
night and day compared to and I was like, well, that's why you're paying more for a Madonna, like
Absolutely,
you got to pay for,
absolutely.
to all this huge elaborate stage that takes up half the floor,
Literally, yeah. That's like very immersive theater stage experience where you can see her from all sides of you. If you get a certain seat, she'll be on every.
Yes.
Yeah, it's very special. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you? I mean, you must have been burning calories left and right doing that show.
Oh my God, you have no
Like,
idea.
how would you? I've always been curious. Like, how do you manage eating? Like, are you eating before the show? Are you fueling up after the show? Like,
Both. Both. But always eating before the show is very particular, because on a day-to-day basis, your body feels so different. and you may have energy from a meal you had the night before, and therefore you have less of an appetite on the day of the show, so you don't eat as much and you're good. And then you may have a day where you're starving by 4 o'clock, but you can't eat a full meal because you've got to perform in a few hours.
Yeah.
So there were days where I would be starving, or I didn't want to maybe have what was at catering. So I'm just like eating a banana and a protein bar and a protein shake and just eat whatever you can to get through the show. And by the end of the show, you're like so hungry. But the second it's done, you have your after show food. So you have your big thing. But we were burning calories all the time. It was like, and every day we weren't performing was just like full rest day on top of like the traveling and all of those things.
Sure.
Walking through cities and sort of exploring the cities. But it's the 2 hour duration. It's like the durational work, because already like you have the performance, what's happening on the stage, but then all the things that are going on behind the scenes, all of the running from one spot to the
Right.
next, the changing costumes, the quick change from in 40 seconds from say Ray of Light into Bitch I'm Madonna in the end, and you have to put on
Right.
a wig and shoulder pads and heels and this and makeup and like, so that kind of stuff, it's all layered into the cardio experience of the show.
Oh yeah. What Madonna were you in Bitch I'm Madonna?
I was Human Nature Madonna.
Oh yes, that's right.
Yeah, so I had black
The
what
bodysuit
bodysuit.
and the
Yeah,
the
and I
braids,
had,
which were a wig, right?
yes, yeah, I had my cornrow braids and my black lip.
Did you get to pick which Madonna you were, or you
Nope.
were assigned which
We
Madonna
were
you were?
assigned which Madonna, I'm sure by Madonna herself.
I see.
I'm pretty
Yeah, I was
sure,
wondered. I was
and
like, oh,
with the
well,
team.
I wonder how they chose who got to be which one. But
But I was very happy with the Madonna I got. I thought it was perfect. I was like, this is great. I really wanted to feel like a little sexy, like sexy Power Ranger Madonna, like jumping around in heels, like because I'm more muscular, obviously. So I felt more like an action figure. Like,
yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That's funny. Um, so we'll pivot a little bit off of Celebration Tour.
yeah.
You also DJ and produce your own music. Tell us about that.
So actually, I don't DJ, but I do.
Oh, I
I
thought you
do.
did.
No. I actually I grew up with the name DJ because I'm Donnie Jr. So people have always called me DJ. But
Oh, I see.
I do not DJ, and I produce some of my own music, but that is as like as a process to be recording my own music. So I wouldn't even call myself a producer, but I do sing and I do write music.
Nice.
And so like now in collaboration with a producer friend of mine here in Paris, we are going to be producing a new EP for me. So it's like my first body of music as a recording artist. And I've always sang since I was singing even before I was dancing. And it's always something I have a lot of passion and love towards. And only in the last couple of years, as I went through a certain sort of winter, say we can call it a seasonal depression. I don't know what it was, but there was a certain winter a couple of years ago where I really felt like I needed something else. And so I started really like writing a little bit and like recording myself. And I got so excited about it and was like, wow, this I still have so much joy to experience in this way and so much passion. So I just kept doing it. And I was able to show some things to some friends on the tour. I worked on some other things on the tour, told Madonna about the music. So I'll be
Nice.
sharing stuff with her. She heard me sing a couple of times, and that was always very sweet. So yeah, that's my new adventure. I'm really excited to have a new creative outlet to give myself to. Um, yeah, so hopefully things will be coming out around April, May of next year. But
Fun. What type of music?
I'm gonna say that it's alternative R&B. That's what I've been telling people, but
Okay.
it feels kind of hard to really box it in because I'm just an artist who, especially as a dance background, I'm used to like doing many different kinds of things. So I want to kind of be able to scratch all the itches. So something a little bit more poppy, something a little bit more sultry, something a little bit more classic R&B, and then we have some more experimental things, or what I would say is experimental, and then something a little bit acoustic. So a little bit of a journey, so to say.
Oh, and then you can always follow up the EP with the dance remix version of it,
That's
the
true.
deluxe version.
Exactly. Exactly. I didn't think
Well,
about that actually. Mhm.
well, everyone knows as a listener of the show that I'm always about the remix. So,
Yeah.
if you have some good remixes, you gotta have some good
Oh
remixes.
yeah, you gotta have some good remixes. It's true.
Well, that's fun. I'm excited. I know how it is as I'm a photographer, and then I do this
Okay.
podcast, and then I just know that like sometimes it's fun to sort of stretch your creative muscles in different directions.
Yeah.
Not that you get bored with the art that you're currently doing, but it it helps open your mind up a little bit more to other things. Like I feel like
Yeah.
because I do produce some music as well, and I feel like that is such a challenge for me. That doesn't come as
Yeah.
easy as say photography does for me. But then
Yeah.
it sort of colors the photography in a different way where I'm able to like go back and like photography feels fresh again in some way.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think they definitely can support each other having multiple creative outlets. They inform each other and keep me curious and excited about the other because I've had such a very, what I would say, rich experience as a dancer that's been so fruitful and such a dream come true. Um, that I almost feel like, wow, I've really done what I wanted to do as a dancer.
Yeah.
Let's see what else I can do in another way. And I will keep dancing because I love dancing. It will always like provide a lot of beauty in my life. Um, but yeah, it's such a full experience already. I'm ready to like see what else I can build and create in my life.
Hmm.
Um, yeah.
Yeah. Was there, you said that the reason I ask you this is because you said you had a season of depression a couple years ago. Was,
Like a seasonal, we could call it seasonal depression.
was there a depression that came after the end of the celebration tour? Were you sad?
I was very sad. Yes, I was really sad. And it was such a beautiful year. The cast of dancers they're so incredible and we had such a amazing chemistry together. We really felt like family. And of course they tell you in the beginning, guys, we're going to become family, but you don't really realize it until about half like a third, not even a halfway through, a quarter of the way through the process. You're like, "Oh yeah, we are going to be super bonded after this." So yeah, I was definitely disappointed to be leaving all of them and like not being able to see them all daily.
Right.
But it feels like you just made 16 new cousins that are like very close, people that you
Hmm.
can call anytime you're in the same city or if you need anything, or if you just want to talk or whatever. um, yeah, really, really grateful for them. She picks beautiful people because there's no room for too much ego
Yeah.
in that world and the amount of work that we have to do. You have to be really ready to put yourself aside and make the project the most important thing.
Sure. Yeah, I've said this a couple of times on the show before. I felt that the group of celebration tour dancers that were with you,
Mm-hmm.
they felt so much more like poignant people in a show, in a Madonna show, as opposed to like the past couple of tours. I felt like they weren't as individualized. And this
Mm.
show, I felt like you really got to know personalities, quote unquote,
Yeah.
for each
Yeah.
of the people. Like I felt like like like, in some of the previous Madonna tours, I didn't necessarily been like, oh, I know that dancer, or, oh, I know that dancer. But
Yeah.
like seeing Celebration Tour, I was like, oh, there's Donnie, or like,
Yeah.
oh,
Yeah.
there's James Van Fam. Like I
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
I was recognizing Daniel Sibile.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
they sort of just stood out. So I
Yeah.
think yeah, it's a testament to Madonna and who she selects, but then I also think it's a testament to you as a person and as a dancer. Like your art was so elevated that you were able to
Absolutely.
sort of like pop on stage.
Yes. Yeah. And the range of the choreographers really gave us moments to really be highlighted. Like we didn't feel like even saying like, oh yeah, I was a backup dancer. I'm like, was I a backup? Do we call it a backup? Or we were just performing with her. It
Yeah.
wasn't like, because she brings us to the level of the performance where it's like it's us and her. We're really
Yeah. Oh, for
merged
sure.
together as performers and not just something floating in the background, which was really lovely. It's
Yeah.
like
I mean,
that's
there were moments of like you're all working together as one.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
it was great to see. I loved all the nods to Madonna past and
yes, yeah,
the reinvention of some of those moments that were
yeah,
familiar to long-term fans. But then I also loved just the freshness of everything that was, injected into the show.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, did you get to keep any of the outfits?
No, we can't keep anything. Sadly, they're like, it's all going into the big
Yeah, they're
archives.
like, you have to sign like a waiver, be like, nope, we're
Yeah.
returning all of this.
They're like, we spent a lot of money on this because some of
Uh-huh.
those things were like designed brand new. So yeah, no, no, no.
Yeah, okay. No, I was wondering if you got to keep the erotica shorts because I was like, oh,
Oh
those are,
yeah.
oh, those are the boxing gloves, those like
Yeah.
diamond encrusted boxing gloves with like
So good.
erotica on it. There was so many. Did you appreciate those details? Like,
Oh,
like when you were
absolutely.
putting stuff on? I mean, you said you were tripping out over like "Don't Tell Me" costume, but like,
Oh yeah.
were you able to really appreciate all of that stuff that was happening?
Definitely, because they definitely, especially erotica, actually, I would almost say erotica the most when it comes to like the detail of things. The gloves, we had grills, right?
Uh-huh.
Like the gloves, the waistband. Was there anything else super specific? I mean, even our opening looks, our opening punk looks were like
So
super
good.
personalized. Like we could even sort of collaborate with the stylist and designers. I'm like, oh, maybe we can put some of the patches here. Maybe I can take some chains and some safety pins and we can do it like this. So
Yeah.
we were able to like really get, even also with Ray of Light, like to give ourselves also that freedom in the character
Hmm.
for that specific
Well,
time
you were just
frame.
like, I'm gonna be shirtless again.
Yeah. If I I'm like, honestly, just take it off.
Oh, question about so one of my favorite numbers was Holiday in
Oh
that,
yeah.
and the Chic I Want Your Love, where you all
Yeah.
sort of did that. So
Uh-huh.
every show that I saw, the audience would trip out over that moment. Did you hear that? Like, did
Really?
you understand like that was happening during
No,
e-
actually.
every
I
single
didn't know
show?
that.
Every
People
single
thought it
show
was really cool.
they loved it. Like you
Okay.
would hear, like I would just hear the roar of the audience every single time you guys would be moving around. And I was like, I don't
Yeah.
know why. To me, I always said that was such old school Madonna because like if you watched her in like Blind Ambition tour, there was moments where like the whole entourage moves across the stage at the same
Yeah.
time. And to
Yeah.
me, that I felt like that was that moment again, which was
Yeah.
a nice sort of nod to her past.
You know, it's funny. She loves to be with us. Like she really, when the choreography sometimes happens that she has to be over there and all of us are over here. She's like, oh, now here it is again, me just alone by myself and the dancers over there. She really wants to be in the group. Like that's where she feels the most. Of course, she also is such a dancer and like was a
Mm,
dancer before she was a pop star. So she's like, I want to be with, get me with my people. But I really liked that moment, and I like that people really enjoyed it. I didn't know. I mean,
yeah.
there were clips and photos of it that were really popular, but yeah,
Yeah,
makes
it's I
sense.
guess I mean there must be moments during the show where like some days, I mean because there were some days where you're doing back-to-back shows and that's got to be
Yeah, for sure.
exhausting to have to like run a marathon twice 2 days in a row. Did the
Yes.
crowd energy lift you up?
Always, 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 always. Some crowds more than others,
Sure.
but always they are the thing that was giving us energy because there were days where we were extremely exhausted, and her as well, with all of the international travel, etc. But where we would be backstage, kind of staring at each other like, oh wow, we're gonna do another one and say it's show like 56 and we're like, here we go, we
Yeah.
had 80, there were 81 or something like that
Mm-hmm.
shows.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, there was a moment where it was like pressing play on a movie, um which was interesting, but there was always something new as well,
Yeah.
like, so, and that's the beauty of performing.
Mm-hmm.
So
Did you tinker with dance movements along the way? Or did you basically
definitely.
like rehearsal and then you locked it and it was locked for the rest of the time?
Not super locked. Like we didn't. We changed a few things actually. Like even Madonna had some things that she stopped liking at a certain point. So we changed some things, or we made some few lighting adjustments to make certain moments come out in a certain way. But more or less, the foundation was there. But then
Mm,
always the interpretation would change every day. Like there were moments where we could always add a little bit of flair here, add a little embellishment here or there. Like that was happening all the time, and that's like the dancers way of really just like communicating and keeping it alive. by like giving it this little zest that changes every night.
Yeah.
And Madonna does the same thing. Like there were nights where she would do things that you weren't quite ready for. You'd be like, okay, girl, we're going there today. Like which it gives you actually so much energy. Her being like the center of the solar system of this show, when she would rev something up, the whole group like it's like a huge burst of adrenaline for us. Like there were days where she would, like the first time in get up on your feet, the second song right after Nothing Really Matters, she would come out and do like the first
Everybody.
time. Everybody, yes, there we go. She would come out the first time she came out and grabbed my hand and just like kicked, like did this huge kick to the ceiling. I was like, okay, the show is happening. Like she's in a good mood, she's got a lot of energy, let's go. Like, so these moments were really, really fun to always sort of respond to each other.
Well, I'm sure she's like the conductor,
Oh yeah.
where it's
Yeah.
like, and here we go,
Yeah. Yeah. It was really, it's, yeah, entirely. That's the perfect way to put it.
Well, I know you're a busy, man. I don't want to keep you for too much longer, but before I let you go, there's a little segment on the show that we like to call the lightning round. These
Oh
answers
God.
are meant to be quick off the top of your head, wherever you're at in your Madonna journey. Don't think
Okay.
too hard. Favorite Madonna song?
Rain.
Favorite Madonna music video?
Human Nature.
Favorite Madonna tour? And yes, it can be the one that you were a
It
part of.
was the one that I was just on, the celebration.
Favorite Madonna movie?
Um, Baseball League of Their Own. What's it called?
Yep, League of Their
Yeah,
Own. Yep.
yeah.
Okay. I didn't know. I never know how many people have seen like Madonna movies or Madonna
Uh-huh.
past Madonna tours, but
Yeah.
um favorite Madonna look, and this can be from a music video, a tour, a photo shoot, in person.
Her and Michael Jackson in the all white, so luxurious and expensive.
At the Oscars. Yeah. It
Yeah.
was yeah. I mean, just glamour, like Hollywood
Wow.
royalty right there.
Wow.
Well, Donnie, tell everyone where they can find you on social.
So you can follow me on Instagram at Donnie_Q. You can follow me on TikTok at Donnie_Q number 2. And you can find me at YouTube at Donnie Duncan Official, I believe. Yeah.
Nice. And we'll look forward to hearing some music.
There we go. Stay tuned.
Well, and remember, everybody, you can find us on Instagram, X, and Threads at MLVC Podcast. If you'd like to donate to the show, we're on Venmo at MLVC Podcast. And if you've not yet subscribed to our YouTube channel, click that subscribe button so you never miss a video. Donnie, thanks again for joining us. This is so great. I'm so happy that you were able to be on the show. This is wonderful. Stay right where you are. We're going to end the live, but
All right.
we'll chat for a second afterwards. So
Yep. Thank you.
until next time, everybody, nothing really matters. Love is all you need.